Okay, now in Unit 3, we've come to the application portion of using decimals, and especially for those of you entering the health field, this here is fairly critical. So if you're looking at something, let's say that a patient needs 4.5 grams of a medication every day. So they need 4.5 grams, or 4.5. What if, 4 5/10, sorry. What if the pills only come in 75/100th of a gram dosages? So the pill is only 75/100ths. How many pills do they need to take? Well, as in most things in mathematics, there's many different ways to solve this. I could keep adding 75/100ths until I came up with 4.5, or I could take this 4.5 and divide by 75. So here you can see where we just learned about division of decimals. Now we actually need it to get a patient the correct dosage. If you remember right, what you had to do is you cannot divide by a decimal. So I'm going to move over 2 spaces, which means I also have to move over 2 spaces here. I don't have 2 spaces. Remember what to do? Yeah, just add a 0. Now I can move over 2 spaces. And I end up with a simple problem of 450 divided by 75. You end up with the same, it's the same answer as if I were to divide 4.5 by 75/100ths. Again, especially where a patient is concerned, it's really important to know, I mean, it's probably more critical to use a calculator for something like that, but you need to understand what you're going to do. You're not going to multiply, because otherwise you'll give them too many pills and they could overdose or have other complications. How many times is 75 going to 4? 0. 45, 0. 450, let's see, 2, 4, 6 times. Let's check if I'm right. 6 times 5 is 0. Carry a 3. 42 and 3, 45. That works out. So that patient would need 6 pills every day. And depending on the medication or what the doctor's recommendation is, it might be 2 with breakfast, 2 with lunch, 2 with dinner, or maybe 6 all at once. And there's other ways that you're going to need to apply the skills that you know or have learned how to use with decimals or fractions as it applies to health and medicine. Okay. One thing that it seems to me that people really have a difficult time doing is measuring on a syringe, because the syringes aren't always set up really nicely. The syringe the nicest thing about math, you get to draw pictures. Okay, if these here were in cubic centimeters, and what if I had to give 1 and 6, or 1 5/10 cubic centimeters of a medication? Well, first I have to understand, what is this broken down into? And if I look at it, if this is 1, would this be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4? Whoops, I'm already at 2. So I know this is not going by ones. I have to figure out what are these lines going by. So I'm going to go from 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2. That works. So that would mean that this is 1 2/10. This is 1 3/10. Well, see how easy it is to make a mistake? Probably don't want me to give you a shot if you don't want me for your doctor. 1 4/10. Here's 1 6/10. 1 8/10. And so if you think about it, that this here is 2 and no tenth, 1 and no tenth, think of it as 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. they're counting by 2/10 each time. And so the most difficult thing about reading a syringe is just understanding what the gradient is, what the scale is on the markings. So where's 1 5/10? Well, if I was filling up the syringe, here, let's pretend I wanted to Hulk out, so I'll use some green. We'll get some green medication. I need to make it as close as I could to halfway between 1 4/10 and 1 6/10. Most of the time, it's not super hypercritical that if I'm off by a thousandth of a cubic centimeter, no one's going to die. Like I said, you don't want me for your doctor. But you would fill up the syringe in the bottle and you'd pull that up until it came to this line. Usually what they do is they pull it up beyond that line, they'll get, make sure the air is all up at the top and then squeeze it out and push it until you get to where you want it. You waste a little bit, but that's okay. It's better than giving too much or too little to the patient. And you have some practice in your book, and I hope you take a look at that and do some practice with that. Again, we still have one more topic to look at for Unit 3, and I usually don't do this, but we're going to cut this video short and move on to another video because this video is getting kind of long.